What if the softest, most familiar loaf in your pantry contained ingredients banned across the Atlantic? In April 2025, France reinforced strict food safety regulations, blocking the import of 9 specific American breads due to unacceptable levels of chemical additives, substances still legally served to millions of U.S. families every day. We're talking about bleached flours laced with benzoyl peroxide, dough softeners like datum and ADA, and mold inhibitors such as calcium propionate, many of which have been linked to gut inflammation, neurobehavioral issues in children, and even insulin resistance, according to EFSA and French Ministry of Health reports released just this spring. So why are these same loaves still lining our grocery shelves without a single warning label? If Europe's standards see these products as a risk to public health, what does it say about what Americans are quietly expected to tolerate? This is the Downturn Report, where the truth gets personal. Today, we're breaking down the 8 breads banned in France but still flooding American supermarkets, and why you need to think twice before your next sandwich. Number 1. Wonder Bread. Not all danger comes with a warning label. Sometimes it comes in a soft plastic bag sealed with a twist tie, sitting quietly on a discount shelf. Wonder Bread, America's white, fluffy icon of childhood comfort and convenience. For decades, we've trusted it like an old friend who never asked questions. But maybe we should have asked a few ourselves. Because what's been slipping between our sandwich slices isn't just lunch. It's a loaf full of loopholes, chemicals, and a regulatory shrug that would make even a used car salesman blush. Across the Atlantic, France didn't blink. As of 2024, they've made it crystal clear: potassium bromate, a chemical flour enhancer, is banned. No exceptions. Not in bread, not in pastries, not even near a baguette. Why? Because this additive has been tied to kidney tumors, DNA damage, and, yes, carcinogenic effects. Meanwhile, in the good old US of A, the FDA still gives it the green light, as if our intestines are made of Kevlar. What's worse, the European Food Safety Authority's 2025 review flagged U.S. bread exports as containing more than 60 micrograms per kilogram of potassium bromate, an amount so high it triggered seizures at French ports. But here, it just triggers toast, and potassium bromate is just the opening act. Wonder Bread has also been linked to azodicarbonamide, or ADA, a chemical once famous for making yoga mats extra bouncy. That's right, the same stuff you were stepping on in aerobics class might have been in your grilled cheese. Subway yanked it out after public outrage back in 2020. Wonder Bread? They took their sweet time, only fully phasing it out in mid-2024 after watchdog groups rattled enough cages. France? They banned ADA since 2005. Meanwhile, American consumers were left wondering why their bread smells like a yoga studio. But maybe the most unsettling ingredient isn't even in the dough. It's the illusion itself. This isn't bread. It's a marshmallow in a trench coat pretending to be wholesome. It's softness over substance, nostalgia over nutrition, and shelf life over actual life. While France, Germany, and the UK keep their bakery aisles clean, our gas stations, dollar stores, and school cafeterias stay stocked with this sponge in disguise, served up to communities already fighting diabetes, hypertension, and food deserts. And we call that choice. Still, before we throw the loaf out with the bathwater, let's look deeper. Internal documents leaked in 2025 showed the real reason behind these shortcuts. Intense industry pressure to keep bread under $2. When the system rewards cutting corners over cutting toxins, it's not always about greed. It's about survival in a broken game. So if you're tired of playing along, maybe it's time to opt out. Check out sourdough loaves at your local Latino grocer, or brands like Alvarado Street Bakery. Real grains, real rules, none of that banned in Europe baggage. And if your oven's still got some fight in it, grab a cast iron pot and bake your own. Flour, yeast, salt, water, a little patience. You might just find something more nourishing than anything that ever came in a balloon-covered bag. Because bread should feed your body, not fool your trust. Number 2. Nature's Own. It sounds like something you'd pick up at a farmer's market after petting a goat and sipping lemonade in a mason jar. Nature's Own. Just saying the name feels like breathing in fresh air. Golden wheat fields, kids laughing in the backyard, grandma with flour on her apron. It sells more than bread. It sells a feeling. One that tells you, this is safe, this is good, this is real. But as it turns out, the closer you look, the more that sunshine turns into a fluorescent spotlight, and what's underneath might make you put the loaf right back on the shelf. Because while the US wraps Nature's Own in green labels and good vibes, France sees something else entirely. In 2025, under the European Commission's updated food standards, French regulators cracked down on synthetic emulsifiers and industrial enzymes. Two things that are baked right into several Nature's Own lines. Mono and diglycerides, used to make the bread stay soft and last longer, have been flagged under EU Regulation 1333/2008 for being chemically processed with petro-based solvents. In fact, in February 2025, French customs officials detained shipments of US bread for lacking transparency about the origins of these additives. If it can't be traced, it doesn't get in. Simple as that. But wait, there's a cherry on this lab-baked cake. In May 2024, Food Watch Europe revealed that some Nature's Own products contain sorbitol, a synthetic sweetener that also helps the bread stay moist. Sounds like a harmless perk, until you realize it can act as a laxative at low doses and may cause gut inflammation. France requires warning labels when sorbitol exceeds 10 milligrams per serving. Here in the States, it hides behind the innocent-sounding term humectant, or codename E420. You're not just buying bread, you're buying a chemistry lesson you didn't sign up for. And then come the enzymes. Several of Nature's Own specialty lines, like butter bread and Perfectly Crafted, use enzymes derived from genetically modified organisms. France says, not without full traceability and pre-approval. And when tested in June 2025 by French food safety authorities, 3 out of 5 US bread samples failed. They were pulled from organic grocery chains in cities like Lyon and Marseille. You read that right. What America sells as natural, Europe sends straight back with a warning tag. Now, is Nature's Own evil? Not necessarily. In March 2025, the parent company, Flowers Foods, admitted that supply chain issues in hot weather in many US states forced them to rely on shelf stabilizers. It's not always greed. It's often desperation dressed up in cellophane. But maybe it's time to stop confusing convenience with quality. Silver Hills Bakery from Canada offers sprouted grain bread with no GMOs and no synthetic additives. Just ingredients your grandma would recognize. Or look for Ezekiel bread in the freezer section. No enzymes, no preservatives, just pure grain goodness. Or go full pioneer and try baking your own spelt loaf. 3 ingredients, no nonsense. Number 3, Sara Lee. Say it out loud. Sara Lee. It rolls off the tongue like a lullaby, warm and familiar, like something you'd see written on a pie dish at a church potluck. It doesn't sound like a threat. It sounds like comfort, like the smell of something baking when you walk into grandma's kitchen. But comfort, as it turns out, can be one heck of a salesman. Because what's hiding beneath that gingham-wrapped branding isn't nostalgia. It's a mold-proof science project that wouldn't make it past French customs, even with a handwritten apology. Let's start with calcium propionate, the behind-the-scenes star of Sara Lee's extended freshness. It's the reason their loaves can sit on a shelf longer than most houseplants can survive a week without water. Legal in the US? Yes. Welcome in France? Not quite. In mid-2024, the French National Food Safety Agency launched a formal review after 12 different studies showed a disturbing trend. Kids who regularly consume calcium propionate reported higher rates of irritability, hyperactivity, and sleep problems. We're not talking conspiracy theories here. These findings were submitted directly to the European Commission. France responded by limiting its use to less than 0.1% of a product's total mass. Sara Lee's standard sandwich loaf? Tests in early 2025 showed levels more than double that. In France, that means a one-way trip to port detention. In America, it means buy one, get one free. Now pair that with sodium stearoyl lactylate, an emulsifier that keeps Sara Lee bread as soft and bendy as a beach towel left in the trunk. When mixed with propylene glycol, another softener found in many of their recipes, the EU now classifies this combo as synthetic and unnecessary. Not toxic, just not food. In 2025, the updated labeling rules in France made it clear, if a product uses these agents together, it needs reformulating, or it stays off the shelf. But even that's not the kicker. In a scandal that barely made a ripple here, but caused shockwaves across Europe, a former employee at Bimbo Bakeries USA, the parent company of Sara Lee, leaked photos from their Georgia facility showing tanks of mold inhibitors stored right beside industrial cleaning agents. No confirmed contamination, no product recall. But in France, that alone was enough for 3 national grocers to cancel their import contracts. They called it unacceptable safety ambiguity. We'd probably just call it Tuesday. So here's the gut punch. That soft, sweet loaf sitting quietly in your pantry, promising freshness for weeks, is held together by ingredients your digestive system likely doesn't recognize and your government doesn't question. It's not just bread, it's marketing on a molecular level. And the longer it lasts, the more you have to wonder, what exactly is dying in there? Because it sure isn't the mold. But don't worry, there's still bread worth trusting. 1 Degree Organic Foods, a Canadian company doing things the old-fashioned way, lets you trace every ingredient to the source with a scannable QR code. Their sprouted loaves are kept chilled, not chemically embalmed, or go rustic with an Irish soda bread. Just flour, baking soda, buttermilk, and salt. No sorcery involved. Because when a loaf outlives your milk and looks you in the eye like it has nothing to hide, maybe it's time we stopped letting barcodes make our grocery decisions and started letting our instincts do the shopping. Number 4, Pepperidge Farm. Some brands whisper sweet nothings. Pepperidge Farm hums an entire lullaby. It doesn't shout for attention. It leans in gently, like a rocking chair on a front porch, selling you warmth, wholesomeness, and a slice of Americana that feels too precious to question. But sometimes the softest voices hide the hardest truths. And if you take that foil-wrapped comfort and shine a light on it, you'll find a label that wouldn't survive a single border checkpoint in France. That's because one of Pepperidge Farm's favorite tricks, datum, a dough, conditioner with a name that sounds more like a startup than something in your sandwich, isn't getting much love from European regulators, especially not when paired with mono and diglycerides, another set of emulsifiers that help industrial bread stretch like it's auditioning for a yoga class. This chewy magic might feel satisfying, but according to a joint EU study in April 2025, regular consumption of this combo could increase intestinal permeability, or in less sterile terms, make your gut leak. The same gut that's already under siege from processed food, medication, and stress doesn't need a chemical wrecking ball posing as sandwich softness. In the US, datum sails through regulation with barely a speed bump. But in France and Germany, it hits a regulatory wall. Under the European Commission's 2025 regulation, 2025/001, 087-F. Any bread containing over 0.3% emulsifier content must clearly say so. Right on the front of the package. Pepperidge Farm's loaves? Not a warning in sight, just old-timey script and promises of heartiness. But what truly sent Pepperidge Farm packing from French shelves wasn't just what they put in the bread, it was what grew in it. March 2025 brought an unwelcome revelation. Leaked internal reports from Campbell's Soup Company, the parent brand, exposed that several production runs of whole wheat loaves had elevated mold counts. Not enough to violate U.S. standards, apparently, but enough to make French regulators raise both eyebrows. Turns out some of those loaves had sat for over 10 days in shipping containers without climate control. Instead of discarding them, mold inhibitors were applied after baking, a practice that, under EU regulation EC 852/2004, is strictly banned for high-moisture bread. In France, bread gets baked or it doesn't get sold. No second chances, no band-aids. So what are we really being offered here? A soft loaf shaped by chemistry, not tradition. A nostalgia play dressed in foil, asking us to remember the past while ignoring what's written in the present. If that's someone's idea of wholesome, they might want to read the ingredients again. Thankfully, real bread doesn't need a marketing pitch. It just needs a baker who cares. Rudy's Organic Bakery out of Colorado skips the emulsifiers and lets fermentation do the heavy lifting. No datum, no calcium propionate. Just honest, USDA certified ingredients. Or wander down the street to your local panaderia. Odds are you'll find warm loaves made in small batches with nothing more than flour, water, and a baker who still trusts their hands more than a lab technician. And for those who want to take matters into their own oven, a homemade Scandinavian rye is proof that bread can stay fresh without being pickled in preservatives. Sometimes the best flavor isn't in the softness, it's in knowing exactly how and why it got to your plate. Number 5, Ora wheat. Some bread talks like it just got back from yoga class. Ora wheat, with its thick-cut slices, matte packaging, and words like hearty, premium, and artisan, carries itself like the Whole Foods of sandwich bread. It's got the branding of something hand-shaped by monks wearing aprons in the Alps. But let's be honest, what we're really looking at is a factory loaf in a tuxedo. And in France, even a sharp suit can't hide what's inside. Take sodium stearoyl lactylate, the tongue-twisting additive that gives Ora wheat its signature softness and shelf life. Here in the States, it's waved through without much thought. But in 2025, the French Directorate General for Food hit the brakes. A collaborative study with the Université de Bordeaux found that even small amounts of this emulsifier could impact gut flora over time. Lab rats fed a steady diet of it showed signs of microbiome imbalance and leaky gut within 12 weeks. France didn't wait around. They slapped usage limits on the additive and now require warning labels if it exceeds 0.2% by weight. When Ora wheat's U.S. loaves were tested, multiple samples failed to meet that standard. No surprise then that those loaves didn't make it past French ports. But softness comes at more than one price. Ora wheat also leans on enzyme conditioners, some produced using GMO microbes. Under France's updated 2025 biotraceability laws, that's a problem. Every enzyme must be clearly labeled as GMO or proven non-GMO and backed by full documentation. According to a May expose by EU AgriCheck, not only did Ora wheat lack those papers, but the samples flagged also contained unknown enzyme signatures. That got them blacklisted from chains like BioCbon and Carrefour Bio faster than you can say heritage grain. And then comes the mold puzzle. Like Sara Lee, Ora wheat depends on calcium propionate to fend off fungus, but takes it further by pairing it with ascorbic acid and monoglycerides, a combo that lit up a 2024 EU toxicology panel. Their concern? a possible link between this trio and insulin resistance in children. Yet here it is, sitting in American lunchboxes with labels that say, "Great for kids." So ask yourself this: is the $5 loaf really premium, or just priced to feel that way? It's not hard to see why Bimbo Bakeries, the corporate umbrella behind Oro-Wheat, cuts these corners. Keeping bread stable through heat waves, long-haul shipping, and gas station shelves isn't easy. But the solution shouldn't be a chemistry set with a crust. Not if we care what we're feeding our families. Luckily, alternatives are within reach. Simple Needs, a North Carolina-based bakery, offers frozen, allergen-free breads made without emulsifiers or preservatives. Just grains, seeds, and honest-to-goodness time. Or check out a neighborhood Eastern European bakery where sourdough still rises. From real fermentation, not genetically tweaked enzymes. Oro-Wheat may walk like a luxury loaf, but what it carries inside is anything but refined. The packaging can posture all it wants. Your stomach isn't fooled as easily as your eyes. Number 6, great value. Sometimes a loaf of bread isn't just a choice, it's a survival tactic. When wallets feel thinner than a gas station napkin and the fridge echoes like a canyon, it's no surprise that great value, the house brand of Walmart, becomes the go-to. A full-sized loaf for under $2? It feels like mercy in plastic wrap. But if you've ever wondered how they manage to sell an entire loaf for less than the price of a coffee, you're not alone. And the answers are buried deep inside the label, beneath a crust that France doesn't dare bite into. Great value bread isn't kneaded with care. It's designed with equations. Think of it more as a chemistry experiment in loaf form, crafted to sit on shelves, not to nourish bodies. According to a February 2025 report from Safe Food EU, lab tests revealed at least 4 food additives inside these bargain loaves that would get flagged or outright banned in France under Directive 2025/1147. At the top of the list, azodicarbonamide, or ADA, that infamous yoga mat chemical. Europe banned it long ago, yet it still hides in budget-friendly bread on American shelves, mostly where wallets don't have room for organic options. By March 2025, French food authorities officially listed ADA and synthetic emulsifiers like polysorbate 60 as unsuitable for any imported bread. Border Control at Marseille tested a sample of great value bread and found ADA residues topping 30 micrograms per kilogram, more than enough to trigger an instant rejection under French law. No hearings, no appeals, just a firm no. And the problems don't stop there. Some great value loaves list high fructose corn syrup among their first 3 ingredients, even those wearing whole grain labels like a Halloween costume. Under Regulation 2025/033 EU, the EU now bans whole grain marketing if more than 10% of calories come from added sugars. Several great value bread varieties would fail that test before you even spread on the peanut butter. Add in calcium propionate, another mold inhibitor currently under French review for potential links to hyperactivity and sleep disruption in children. And what you have isn't just cheap bread. It's a nutritional red flag camouflaged in affordability. But here's where it hits harder. This isn't some boutique brand with a niche market. Great value is everywhere, especially in areas where choices are few. Food desserts, school cafeterias, and senior living centers often rely on Walmart's affordability. So while France rejects it at the border, American lunch trays are loaded with it daily. Blaming Walmart alone, though, is like blaming the faucet for the water shortage. The system itself rewards chemical endurance over quality. When families are forced to stretch dollars until they snap, companies respond by stretching shelf life instead. Still, that doesn't mean we're out of options. La Brea Bakery, found in the freezer aisle, offers preservative-free loaves with honest fermentation and no need for yoga mat ingredients. Or try baking Irish brown soda bread at home. Just flour, baking soda, buttermilk, and a bit of salt. No kneading, no waiting, no chemical gymnastics. Because when the cheapest loaf on the shelf needs a lab to stay fresh, maybe the real value lies in stepping outside the label and asking what that discount is actually costing you. Number 7. Sunbeam. She's been on that package for decades. The sweet, golden-haired girl offering you a loaf of bread with the innocence of a Sunday school greeting. Sunbeam doesn't just sell bread, it sells comfort. It sells trust. But behind that all-American grin isn't Grandma's kitchen. It's a lab coat and a checklist of banned ingredients, ones that France has no appetite for. Let's start with the flour. Sunbeam's signature softness begins with bleached wheat, a process still common across low-cost American brands. In the US, this is business as usual, but in France, it's cause for immediate rejection. Bleached flour often involves agents like benzoyl peroxide or chlorine dioxide, chemicals flagged by the EU and banned under Regulation 1129/2011. France's National Food Safety Agency, ANSES, called out this exact method in their March 2025 report, stating that long-term use may contribute to oxidative stress and disrupt gut microbiota. For France, bread isn't a placeholder food, it's a protected cultural symbol. And bleaching it? That's like painting over the Mona Lisa with whiteout. But the problems don't end at flour. To achieve that unmistakable Sunbeam squish, the brand uses sodium stearoyl lactylate, a dough conditioner designed for stretch and softness. Combined with monoglycerides, it creates the kind of pillowy texture Americans have come to associate with freshness. Unfortunately, that chemical hug may come at a cost. The European Committee on Food Additive Transparency issued a warning in February 2025 after animal studies showed these emulsifier blends increase gut wall permeability. France responded by tightening controls on imports that don't disclose full additive traceability. Sunbeam didn't qualify. And then there's the most troubling layer, calcium propionate. A joint investigation by Le Monde and Foodwatch International in April 2025 tested Sunbeam loaves from dollar stores and budget retailers across the US. The results: multiple samples contained calcium propionate levels topping 0.35%, well beyond the EU's maximum threshold of 0.2. Even worse, none of the packaging made that clear. This is the same compound that EFSA's 2025 update identified as a neurobehavioral concern, especially in developing children. In France, that would mean seizure and removal. In the US, it means another value pack. Flowers Foods, the company behind Sunbeam, defended its recipe as a response to market demand, citing the need for affordable bread in regions without stable refrigeration. Translation: it's not built to nourish, it's built to survive. France, however, doesn't accept survival as an excuse for mediocrity. In a May 2025 regulatory memo from the DGCCERF, Sunbeam was formally denied retail clearance until its formulas undergo substantial reformulation. Not tweaks, overhauls. So what does that mean for American consumers? It means we're still being handed comfort wrapped in chemicals, a smiling child on the label, and a list of ingredients that wouldn't make it past a Parisian back door. But there are exits from this bread trap. Bread Alone, a New York-based bakery, Kraft's organic, slow-fermented loaves without bleach, emulsifiers, or lab-designed mold blockers. Or visit your local Middle Eastern grocer, where pita is baked fresh daily using little more than flour, water, and fire. No preservatives, no marketing gloss. A loaf doesn't need to last forever. It needs to belong on your table. And if a smile never fades, maybe it's because it's been printed on the package too long. Number 8. Arnold bread. It stands tall on the shelf. Thick slices, muted earth tone packaging, and names like Country White or Oat Nut that sound like they were hand-picked from a farmer's diary. Arnold bread wants to shake your hand, look you in the eye and say, "I'm not like the others." It speaks the language of health, of wholesomeness, of decisions made with heart. But peel back the wrapper and what you'll find isn't a break from the industrial norm. It's the same formula in a fancier apron. Start with datum, that tongue-twisting emulsifier with a long name and a longer list of questions. In the US, it's used to give Arnold loaves that satisfying chew and shelf stability. But in March 2025, France's National Food Sanitation Authority pulled the brakes. After a joint review with EFSA and the Ministry of Health, researchers flagged strong associations between datum and increased intestinal inflammation, particularly in individuals with autoimmune issues. The result? A new restriction banning breads with more than 0.25% datum by weight. When Arnold's whole grains line was tested at the Lyon port, the formula exceeded that limit more than 2.5 times. For French regulators, that's not just a red flag, it's a full stop. But even if you remove the datum, Arnold still wouldn't clear the bar. The problem stretches back to the flour itself. Many of Arnold's loaves, especially the oat nut and 12-grain varieties, still rely on bleached flour processed with benzoyl peroxide. That chemical, banned across the EU since 2011, was cited in an April 2025 Foodwatch Europe report for contributing to oxidative stress and premature degradation of gut lining. In France, food must heal or nourish, or it doesn't get sold. And then comes the silence. Arnold's packaging, like many American brands, doesn't disclose whether its enzymes or emulsifiers are derived from genetically modified organisms. In the EU, that's non-negotiable. Under Regulation 2025/0745 FR, if you can't trace it, you can't trade it. France doesn't play the guessing game with food, but maybe that's the most honest reflection of how things work here. Arnold isn't alone. Its parent company, Bimbo Bakeries, manages dozens of brands with shared supply chains. The goal isn't always transparency, it's consistency, fast, cheap, and scalable. So if someone tells you Arnold bread is the better choice, maybe it's time to ask, better than what? A loaf that wouldn't pass inspection in half of Europe is still being marketed as premium in American stores. But there's a different route if you're ready. Angelic Bakehouse in Wisconsin offers sprouted grain bread with traceable ingredients, no bleaching, and no datum in sight. It's in major grocery chains, not hidden behind velvet ropes. Or you can go back to basics, Moroccan cobs or rustic Italian pain made at home with 4 ingredients and no questions left unanswered. Sometimes the real test isn't how bread looks in a suit, but how it holds up when the label's gone. Not all bread is food. Not all labels tell the truth. What we swallow shapes more than our health. It shapes trust. Know better, choose better, subscribe and question everything they feed you.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our daily content. Now feel free to check out some of our newest and best videos currently showing on the screen. Goodbye and see you in the next video.